Welcome to World News on TVP World with me, Anna Kalczyńska. This was quite an eventful first day in office for the new U.S. ambassador to Poland. Tom Rose, his unsavory comments about EU sustainability Omnibus directive have ruffled some feathers as the new diplomat lambasted the initiative, claiming it's going to bring an end to American businesses in Europe. However, after some serious convincing on behalf of Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, he backed out from his earlier statements. Natalia Komarov has more on the unfortunate statement that changed the dynamic in his latest report.
It was Thomas Rose's first day on the job as U.S. ambassador to Poland, and he already managed to cause a stir. Washington's new envoy in Warsaw took to X to weigh in on the Sustainability Omnibus directive approved by the European Parliament on Thursday.
If this growth and investment killing bill becomes law, the damage to American investment across Europe will be staggering. It would impose unprecedented reporting burdens, exposes companies to crippling liabilities, and empower Brussels to micromanage even more supply chains, balance sheets, and investment decisions. Make no mistake, President Trump is watching.
This came as MEPs from Poland's two biggest parties, the ruling Civic Coalition and the opposition Law and Justice, celebrated rare bipartisan support for the new omnibus, designed to simplify green reporting rules for small and medium companies across Europe.
We have a strong commitment to our simplification agenda. The idea is to reduce red tape for our companies. It is a request that came from our companies and our member states themselves.
Some Polish lawmakers took the ambassador's post on X as an attempt by Washington to influence Warsaw's policies.
Ambassador, Poland will pursue its own interest and European interest, not those of American businesses. For the benefit of our relationship, it's worth keeping in mind that alliances are not about one side dictating how the other should conduct its politics.
But according to Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, the new ambassador simply made a mistake.
Most likely, the ambassador was mistaken about the directive. Thanks to the Polish EU presidency, the new so-called Omnibus was created to deregulate EU regulations, so to lessen, not increase, the bureaucratic burden.
In the end, Ambassador Rose conceded.
Poland's demand for less bureaucracy and fewer burdensome regulations from Brussels is a demand for more innovation, more prosperity, and more growth in Poland and Europe. The United States stands proudly with Poland as it continues to lead Europe to a more prosperous and competitive future.
For TVP World, Natalia Komarov.
Poland is a loyal ally of the U.S. and expects full respect, emphasized Prime Minister Donald Tusk, following critical comments by U.S. Ambassador to Poland, Thomas Rose.
I know Ambassador Rose has the best intentions. Without a doubt, he is a friend of Poland, and I am convinced that our cooperation will continue to flourish. I have only one comment, one request. Poland is a very loyal ally and is a smaller country than the US, and perhaps because we are a loyal ally and a smaller country than the US, we will always expect full respect from all US representatives. We have the utmost respect for our American friends and expect the same in return.
Poland has been great, said US President Donald Trump, praising the country for its migration policy in his latest interview with the British broadcaster GB News. He also commended Poland's conservative president, Karol Nawrocki, and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. Speaking to the outlet, the American head of state said that Poland has done a very good job not letting anyone in, except for the Ukrainians fleeing the war. On a similar note, Trump applauded Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's migration policies, marking that the Hungarian politician is hated by other leaders, but that he's doing, quote, a fabulous job. Trump also heaped praise on the new Polish President Karol Nawrocki, saying, quote, he's fantastic, he's going to be a great president, end of quote. The US president went on to note that Nawrocki, whom he personally endorsed, was an underdog in the Polish presidential election earlier this year, and that his win came as a major upset. US President Donald Trump has rolled back tariffs on more than 200 food products, including such staples as coffee, beefs, bananas, and orange juice. Asked about a move aboard Air Force One on Friday evening, Trump said that overall, the U.S. has virtually no inflation.
Mr. President, you said that tariffs do not increase prices for consumers, but now you're lowering tariffs.
I didn't say they don't. I say they may in some cases, but to a large extent, they've been borne by the country. As an example, we have virtually no inflation, and yet we've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars. So we've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars. We've used tariffs to stop wars. When I pay people $2,000 each for low and moderate income and middle income people, everybody but the rich will get this. That's not made up, that's real money. That comes from other countries. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but we've taken in a lot of money from tariffs. The tariffs allow us to give a dividend if we want to do that. Now we're going to do a dividend, and we're also going to be reducing debt. We have, because of Biden and others, we have $37 trillion in debt. So we're going to be doing a dividend, which people will enjoy and spend and do what they want. But we're also going to be reducing debt very substantially.
The U.S. Department of State has designated 4 European branches of Antifa as specially designated global terrorist organizations. The move is a continuation of President Donald Trump's rhetoric to curb left-wing violence and radicalization of youth, seeing the organization as a danger to society in the United States and abroad.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said last Thursday that the move is a continuation of Trump's commitment to confront Antifa's campaign of political violence, seconding the U.S. president's rhetoric about Antifa's violent roots.
The epidemic of left-wing violence and Antifa-inspired terror has been escalating for nearly a decade. At universities, Antifa has organized riotous mobs to attack campus speakers. I see it all the time. And these are agitators, anarchists, and they're paid.
The main entity designated as Antifa Ost, while another group is based in Italy and 2 more in Greece.
But they have been very threatening to people, but we're going to be very threatening to them, far more threatening to them than they ever were with us, and that includes the people that fund them. Under the Trump administration, we're going after Antifa criminals, and all who fund and support their campaigns are in serious trouble.
In the latest statement, Rubio added that the U.S. will designate the Antifa groups as foreign terrorist organizations from November 20th on, paving the way to limit material support for groups' members.
Now to more support for Ukraine. Germany says it will make an additional contribution to a NATO initiative that helps member states buy U.S. weapons to Kiev. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius says the pledge will total at least 150 million euros. The announcement came Friday after the E5 meeting in Berlin, attended by top defense officials from Germany, France, Italy, Poland, and the UK. Here's what they said.
As you know, Germany is also participating in the so-called Pearl mechanism. This means we are financing weapon systems from the prioritized Ukraine requirement list that are only available in the United States. These systems are exclusively US produced, and Ukraine needs them urgently. Prominent examples include the Patriot systems and, above all, the missiles for them.
Ukraine will need more funding next year. There are several options, but using immobilized Russian assets is the most clear-cut way to sustain Ukraine's defense. It is also the way to show Russia that time is not on their side. Supporting Ukraine is a bargain compared to the cost of Russia's victory.
Ukraine is on the front line of a war of aggression imposed on it by Russia. From the very beginning, it has been able to count on European solidarity that is both constant and concrete, and President Emmanuel Macron will receive Mr. Zelensky in Paris on Monday, November 17th. Our goal is to compel Russia to return to the peace talks.
The threats against our nations and against Europe have only increased, with reckless drone incursions into Poland, Russian jets flying over Estonia, and NATO nations consulting through Article 4, not once but twice. As Russian aggression is growing, the war in Ukraine continues to rage, and the US has rightly challenged European nations to do more and to spend more on defence.
As there seemed to be no end in sight to the war Russia waged against Ukraine, and the threat of US military presence dwindling in Europe is more of a concern than before, thousands of forces from all across Europe gathered in Romania to conduct the eventful, a drill designed to see NATO's response in case of an attack. Alex Cadier takes us into the very heart of action as he followed the steps of the military upon his visit to Romania.
NATO is getting ready for an attack on its eastern flank. Led by the French armed forces, 5,000 troops from 10 countries training together to counter an attack on Romania.
The goal is to defend every centimeter of every territory of NATO countries, and we're organizing for this. But it's only defensive. These plans are in case of a confirmed attack by an enemy, of course.
Behind the scenes here, officials were crystal clear. They're preparing for more Russian aggression in Europe. Spain, Belgium, Portugal, Poland, Romania and others all took part to practice what a common NATO response would be to an attack in Europe. The first challenge was testing how quickly military equipment, including these French Leclerc tanks, could get to the eastern flank.
Understandably, we're in peacetime, so our journey was slowed by administrative procedures, because our military trains did not get priority to cross borders, so they waited 1 or 2 days. In wartime, things would have gone more easily.
Military officials said the drill was a success, but some questions remain about these forces' ability to fight a Ukraine-style war with Russia. While the Eurofighter Typhoon jets took off, the Romanian F-16s that were meant to take part couldn't fly because of bad weather. Having taken over the battlefield in Ukraine, FPV drones were but a small sideshow during this drill, which on the face of it stayed very similar to previous NATO exercises of this kind. Counter-drone technology was on show. In the last couple of months, this armoured vehicle was fitted with a new grenade launcher designed to shoot down drones and controlled by an operator inside. But even its crew says its capabilities would be limited in battle. They say they haven't trained enough, targeting high-speed drones is done manually, and the vehicle can only fire when stationary. But officials told me that focusing too much on the lessons from Ukraine risks missing the point of European defence. Well, senior French military officials I've been speaking to here behind the scenes say that it isn't just about the capacity to shoot down drones were Russia to attack, because NATO is not Ukraine. They have far more capabilities, and therefore any attack on the defensive alliance would meet a broader, much more far-reaching response against any adversary. They say NATO is ready to defend itself at any time. Alex Cadier in Cincu, Romania for TVP World.
And let's change the tone. Everything seems clear after Poland drew with the Netherlands in the penultimate round of games in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. The Dutch are on their way to winning the group stage and booking a spot in next year's main event, while the Poles appear to be consigned to the playoffs. Despite a performance that pleased many critics, Poland didn't manage to hold on to the lead it took after first half goal from Jakub Kaminski. Early in the second half, the Polish team, hampered by the absence of several key players, conceded a goal, setting the final score at 1-1. The match was suspended for a couple minutes after Polish fans threw several flares onto the pitch. The draw against the Netherlands is likely to get Poland an easier opponent in the playoffs, thus making the road to the 2026 World Cup in Canada, Mexico and the United States considerably easier. Important info. Ski helmets will be mandatory starting this season for everyone having a shoes down the Italian slopes. Failure to comply with the new regulation could result in a €150 fine or even the revocation of one's ski pass. Italy has become the first European country to introduce a law requiring all skiers, snowboarders and sledders to wear helmets. In Europe, the regulation predominantly applies to underage skiers, with age limits varying between different countries. Ski instructors and ski run operators have welcomed the law as a move that will make everyone feel safer on the slopes Italy is one of the most popular skiing destinations throughout Europe, with tens of thousands of Polish skiers choosing the country for winter holidays every year. And that's all in this edition of World News. But please stay tuned to TVP World, where World Talks coming right after.